Yo, JV Wins and Dogon SS are back once again, kicking it to you in your ear with this logical content. Appreciate everybody for watching. Thank you so much for supporting this Conscious Approach channel on YouTube. We certainly appreciate it as we continue to get things rocking and rolling. Shouts out to all of our recent subscribers. Thank you so much for joining the tribe. We certainly appreciate you coming on board. We love doing these videos, man. We love kicking the shit. If you have not joined the tribe yet, and you happen to be catching wind of what we do here on this channel for the first time, and you like what we do over here, whether you agree or disagree with us, that's not exactly the point. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel, man, because this is what we do each and every week. So you get a glimpse of what it is that we like to do over here. So, join in, leave a comment, let us know what you think as we continue to kick the tires and light the fires. Now, with that out of the way, we will go ahead and get things started. First thing that we are going to talk about today is a response to Katt Williams' comments from Marlon Wayans. The Katt Williams interview on Shannon Sharp's network is at this point beyond infamous. It is over 50 million. It is over 50 million views, as accurately predicted by most people who could tell that it was just going to keep trending in the upward direction. And Katt Williams laid waste to a lot of people in the entertainment industry. And one of the things that he mentioned was the advent of black actors wearing dresses in entertainment. And so the Wayans brothers caught some strays as a result of that, more specifically because of the movie White Chicks. And Marlon Wayans took exception to that and decided to respond. He was on the Big Boy show out in California, and they were on the subject, and naturally Marlon Wayans wanted to opine on how he felt about Katt Williams speaking on the White Chicks movie. So we'll go ahead and play this clip real quick. This is Marlon Wayans talking about how he felt about what Katt Williams had to say. He goes into some deep territory here, which is, nothing that we are too afraid to talk about here on this channel.
That's right.
Here's what Marlon Wayans had to say in response to Katt Williams' comments during the Club Shay Shay interview.
I'm not going to tear nobody down to build somebody up, and people got to get back into the positivity of building people up. You don't see any other race of people tearing people down the way black people do.
Right.
We are our own worst enemies, and we have to stop that. I'm never going to support.
But you know what, Marlon, we're looking at 50 million probably now. I'm pretty sure in county, right? And of course, all the clips from Katt Williams were Katt goes at Steve, Katt goes at Said, and those things, man.
He's not wrong for venting what he's venting, because that's that man's experience,
right? And
so I can't strip him of
and
that.
That's what I can't sit and I know everybody too, so I didn't trip off of it, but I tripped off of how that was the things that went up. Now I literally haven't watched anything that long ever, but the negativity is what got it to 50 million.
The 10 Commandments.
But when you watch it, people didn't bring up, oh, he paid for Melba Moore's star.
Right.
They didn't bring up, oh, he's a father, foster father to 7 kids.
Right.
When comedians are on stage, he'll send one of his ladies up to give them $1,000 to a comedian.
He paid for his own specials, that he found his own way. Those are the things that the audience needs to extract. We keep extracting what is negative.
Man.
How do we live in a positive way when all we do is digest what is negative about the life? People aren't methylating their life experience the right way. I'm here to get the best nutrients out of life and out of the experience. And I mean, and that's what we need to celebrate more. I'm tired of the rhetoric of, oh, you sell out in Hollywood because you wore a dress. Negro, I wore a dress. It's called White Chicks. You know what we did? We did a classic. Only black people sit there and go, man, our brothers wearing dresses. Oh, so white people, when they wear dresses, when Robin Williams wears a dress in Mrs. Doubtfire, he's brilliant. When Tom Hanks wears a dress in Bosom Buddies, oh, he's brilliant, right? When Dustin Hoffman wears a dress in Tootsie, he wins an Oscar. Black people, as soon as we put on a dress, we start tearing each other down. This is art and this is comedy. You think I'm gonna tear down Flip Wilson? You think I'm gonna tear down Tyler Perry? I'm not gonna tear down any of these brothers. It's comedy. And we should embrace our comedy, all of it. We shouldn't have one type of humor. We should embrace all of our humor, every shade of black that is black and is beautiful. Minorities need to stick together and come together and really celebrate us. We have been taught to drag each other down. It's toxic. It is so toxic. I'm just a part of that. I'm gonna celebrate. I'm not.
Wow.
All right, man.
Wow,
Good for
that
you. So
whoa. Holy
good,
shit.
good. Yeah, good for you, Marlon. Classic. That's a strong word. Referring to white chicks. That's debatable. But that's how he feels, man. You know, he feels like we have been conditioned to tear each other down, and that's what that whole criticism about black actors wearing dresses is a part of. And you know, he's all about, you know, extracting positivity and leaving the negativity where it belongs. Um, Obviously, there are several different directions that you can take your take of this situation, but how do you feel about what Marlon had to say there?
I mean, man, that he was all over the place. By the way, guys, if you want to see somebody tap dance without tap shoes, that's exactly what it looks like, in my opinion. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to side with Katt Williams on this side of the debate. Now, I don't think it's well, maybe, I don't know. I don't look at it as tearing down black people. I feel like that's a real cheap angle to take. I feel like that's the angle most black people take when uh, you know, faced with something else, you know, an alternative way of looking at things towards their worldview. And then they want to just holler that, oh, we're tearing each other down. Hey, man, newsflash, man, look around. All right. There's white people all over the place, tearing down white people all over the place. I'm really tired of that talking point. And honestly, when somebody goes running to that, you know, it's one of those things where it's like it used to work a long time ago, I felt. But, you know, once you take a look at the world, and we have a better scope of the world now. I mean, we're not just relegated to 30 TV channels. So we can really see what's going on. And right now we can see that there's people within their own race and ethnicity all over the world oppressing their own people and all kinds of crazy stuff. So to holler that black people are the only people that are tearing each other down, well, that's a lie. And
Yeah,
then the
that's a
next,
fallacy.
yeah, and then the next part about it is, I don't see how that's tearing you down when he's making what Katt Williams was getting at is that he feels as though there's an emasculation, all right, agenda towards black males. He feels like that's what's going on. All right. And he's just doubling down on what Dave Chappelle felt some years ago when he was on Oprah's couch. Now, I don't know how he feels now, but it's still the same type of talking point where they feel as though there's an emasculation agenda going on. And if you want to holler about Robin Williams doing it and all these other people doing it and winning these awards, that's fine too. They're emasculating over there as well. And so to sit here and holler that it's art, on one hand, it is. All right. But why are you picking that art? And why are you picking it so often? I would argue. If there's so many ways to be funny, isn't putting on a dress a little hacky? That's what Dave Chappelle said. So if other greats have done it, why should I do it? Shouldn't there be another trail being blazed? So if Marlon saying that there's a whole spectrum of ways to be funny, embrace them all, I agree. So let's not all run the dresses, Mr. Marlon. And is White Girls a classic? No, I've never watched it. I've been completely against watching that. So I know some people that love that movie. But there is one scene in there that popped up on TikTok, and I think it's hilarious. But it's when Terry Crews was talking about this is an all-white party, and he told him get these jigaboos out of here.
I just thought that was hysterical. But what are your thoughts, sir, on Sir Marlon saying that all the greats have done it, and a myriad of other things, basically saying that he's not a part of some weird agenda wearing dresses in Hollywood?
Oh, there's so many different directions.
Hey, man, take your pick, bro.
Yeah, I know,
He's
right? I'll start here, and you somewhat took the words right out of my mouth. I think what Marlon is expressing his frustration over when he is talking about what is an apparent inequity when it comes to how we perceive white people in entertainment wearing dresses, white men in entertainment wearing dresses versus black men in entertainment wearing dresses, and how there's this notion that only black people tear themselves down or tear each other down or attack each other when it comes to the advent of that black male emasculation in Hollywood and entertainment, black men wearing dresses. That's a fallacy. Other communities do it too, but the thing about it is, and I brought up the whole statistic, like this is an observation in statistics, this particular angle. It's not that black people are the only people who are doing this. It's that because black people represent the smallest percentage of people in this community, when there is that kind of criticism going around, it's more pronounced because it sounds louder because it's more pronounced because there's less black people around. So when you're dealing with a smaller sample size, any sort of observation that you are looking at is going to seem more pronounced because you're working with less people. Juxtaposed to white men in Hollywood, there's way more of them than there are black men in Hollywood. So the small percentage of white men in Hollywood who are wearing dresses is going to seem like a drop in the bucket when you're dealing with critiques of that kind of art, because there's way more examples of men in Hollywood who are white who are not doing that to counterbalance it. So I also think that that's a fallacy. It's a misnomer. It's not that black people are the only people tearing each other down when it comes to that kind of portrayal of entertainment. It's that you're working with a smaller sample size, so the complaints about it, or rather the criticisms of it, are simply more pronounced. So that's pretty much all that is. I kind of feel like that kind of takes that fallacy and kind of shoves it aside. Now, with respect to the apparent inequity with which we view these things, I put it like this. For me personally, just make a good movie. If y'all want to parade around wearing dresses, make sure that the direction of the movie is good. Make sure that the script is good. Make a good movie. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of men, period. Whether we're talking about black men, white, I don't care what color, I don't care what your background is. I'm not the biggest fan of men in entertainment wearing dresses as an indication of comedy, because it begs the question, why is that funny? Because you don't see nearly as many women trying to be men in movies and that being portrayed as comedy. You don't see it. Off the top of my head, I can't think of a whole lot of examples of a movie like Big Mama's House or White Chicks, but it's females doing that, where it's women being men. I can't think of very many exampes.
Captain Marvel, Captain Marvel.
No, that doesn't count.
That's a comedy to me. And they're acting like men.
That's one way of looking at it. But I mean, it isn't exactly the same. And like, I can't even think of some of these. Like, what movies can we think of? Like, there was this one goofy movie that one of those Nickelodeon chicks made. It was either in the late 90s or the early 2000s, called She's the Man. I don't know if you remember that. Now, I never watched this movie, but I remember it because it's literally the only thing that I can think of where the plot point of the movie is woman pretending to be a man, and that's what makes it funny. Now, anybody who knows any other examples, feel free to point them out in the comments. I don't really follow movies of this type very much, so admittedly, I might be a little ignorant when it comes to this type.
Yeah, I guess it is its own genre. If you
it is, it for sure is, but it's like I don't follow it, so admittedly, I might be a bit ignorant when it comes to other examples of this. But all I can think of is examples of men wearing dresses. And if it's all the same, if gender bending in movies is truly a source of comedy, then why is it that you don't see it as much with women doing it? Which begs the question, why in the hell is this funny? Why do we find it funny? So I'm not the biggest fan of it for those very reasons. But at the end of the day, if you want to make that kind of movie, just be good. And Big Mama's House isn't good, guys. I'm sorry. The movie sucks.
Hey, whoa, boo.
Sorry, man. Old Martin, Big Mama's House, not funny. The best part about Big Mama's House is Nia Long because of how fine she is. Other than that, those movies aren't good. Sorry.
What about Nutty Professor? Yeah,
Yeah,
gotcha.
Nutty Professor. Nutty-
Yeah, all right. What
yeah,
about
you got-
the what? Yeah, okay.
You got me on that one. Yeah, yeah. But I don't exactly think anyone is beating down the door to proclaim that Nutty Professor is critically acclaimed either. whereas now I've seen Miss Doubtfire. Don't know that I'm going to call that critically acclaimed either.
Me
But to me,
either. What the hell are you talking about?
yeah, but to me, if you want to have a debate, which is better, Mrs. Doubtfire or Big Mama's House, you can have that debate because it isn't clear one way or the other. And when it comes to Tootsie, again, don't like the dude wearing the dress, but in terms of the acting and the directing of the movie, I actually watched that movie one day, and it's marketably better than these movies that we've mentioned. So my whole thing is, you want to parade around wearing the dress, perpetuating this idea that men being effeminate in movies is indeed inherently funny, which I don't agree with. But if you want to suggest that, at least make the movie good. At least make the movie good. Otherwise, I kind of feel like you have no leg to stand on, because it kind of is to me, it kind of is a suspect form of entertainment, in my opinion. And if the movie isn't good from a technical and from an artistic standpoint, in terms of the writing and the direction and the editing and the music, then all the way around, you're opening up the door for your art, so to speak, to be criticized. But moreover, Marlon's contention that this is something that only Black people are doing, I disagree with that. I think that that's false. I think everyone's doing that. Look at Howard Stern, Joe Rogan, people like this. These people make a living calling out other white people in entertainment for doing weird stuff and making weird pieces of art, weird movies, weird TV shows, weird music. So this goes on everywhere. But the thing that we have to realize is that over on that side with those other communities, you're dealing with a larger amount of people who offer a juxtaposition to that kind of content. So it makes it easy to seem like there's only a small percentage of those people who are both doing it, who are making it, and who are criticizing it. Whereas when you're dealing with Black people specifically, do a numbers game. It ain't that many Black people in Hollywood, much less Black people in Hollywood that are prominent. Now, when you compare it to how many people from other communities are in it, so whenever you hear those types of criticisms, it sounds louder. You're dealing with smaller sample sizes. It's my M&Ms in the jar analogy. 10 M&Ms in a jar, it's easy to find all the yellow ones. 10,000 M&Ms in a jar is going to be harder to pick out all the yellow ones. It's going to take a while. But when it's 10 M&Ms, the yellow ones are more pronounced. They're more easily distinguishable. And so I kind of think that's what you're looking at. But everybody's doing it. I just say stop making stuff with dudes wearing dresses. Because if that's inherently funny, someone point out why it is. Explain this to me. If men being emasculated, if men being effeminate is inherently funny, then why don't we see an equitable amount of women being men in entertainment as a showing of how that is also inherently funny? Until somebody can answer that question for me, I'm going to say no more with the dresses.
Yeah, I think the joke I made about Captain Marvel is the other side of the coin. We're not seeing it in comedy because for various reasons. But I think that we're seeing it in other forms of things. And you'll see they'll have their own comedies and part of the humor is them, there's a masculine one in the group, or whatever. But this thing in Hollywood, in my opinion, that goes on with gender bending, as you mentioned, gender bending humor, that's all over the place. And you can just watch a commercial. All right. When you guys are trying to watch the AFC championship game or the NFC championship game this weekend, just take a look at some of these commercials that have how do you say homoerotic humor. And so they'll have stuff in there where the guy is not being a real guy, and that's the joke. They'll have stuff in there where a woman is doing something that a man would be doing, and that's the joke. Now, who's asking for this humor? We're not. Who keeps producing these jokes? I don't know. I don't own any of these studios. So they're the ones that are coming to people, just like in the Dave Chappelle thing when he mentioned when he was talking to Oprah. They're the ones that write these scripts and come to these actors and say, hey, do this. This is funny. Same people that tell you that, hey, make this kind of music. Your people love it. So it's the same type of whatever people who are pushing, in my opinion, gender confusion. And so when you have these movies, that are just mocking, making fun or whatever, but what it is desensitizing people towards, living an alternative lifestyle.
Oh yeah.
Then once you see what happened when social media is now, this is just people with phones in their hands and accounts. And you saw what ended up happening in the mid 2010s is all these guys that were doing skits, they blew up wearing wigs, acting like women. Now, who was in the comment section? People are from the community, and mainly women. Women find it funny. I don't know why, but they find it funny. Not all women, but they do find it funny when a man is doing non-man things. Now, I think that that's because of some other reasons, possibly, that they find it funny. But it should not be funny, which it isn't. It was hard for me to watch, Shanae and when Jamie Foxx was being Wanda or whatever her name was. It was kind of difficult looking at that. And I didn't think it was necessary for humor. And this is in the 90s. So this stuff has been going on so long that it picked up, and now people are doing it as their own form of humor. It's got its own lane. And I don't know why people patronize it. I mean, I get it to a degree, but at the same time, there's so many more ways to be funny. But I think that purposely there is a thing out there from these studios that want to do this. Now, I told you, man, we're not asking for this, and they keep giving it to us. So at this point, and then they know, they hear us. So, and that's, to me, at my point, that's why the word agenda gets attached to it, because nobody likes it, and they keep doing it. And why are you keep emasculating our men? And so it's not just in Hollywood, it's just for anything. So yeah, when you watch a commercial, just watch how the woman is playing in the man's role and how the man is playing in the woman's role. And it's a psychological thing to get up on people. And then you'll have these generations of soft people that don't know what's going on. And so, yeah, I think it's all a part of their thing. And Marlon is just saving face in this, speaking the corporate line, because what else is he going to say? And he's all the way in, so he's not going to give up anything. So to me, it sounded like he was just toting the corporate line, and people like Katt Williams just call it out for the bogusness like they feel that it is, and I agree with them. So yeah, I felt like Marlon was just doing a whole bunch of jibber jabber, and tap dancing his way out of that one. But I caught on to it. So hey man. Hey man, yeah, so enjoy the commercials, enjoy your TV shows when all that stuff going on in there, because we're not asking for it, but it's being provided.
Yeah, it is. And if I'm gonna be reasonable, I pride myself on being a reasonable person. there are some of these, I call it hyperliberalism. I've used that expression on this channel before. It's a part of the hyperliberal movement to deconstruct the traditional ways that we have viewed various social norms, gender, relationship dynamics, um, you know, things like interracial relationships, for example. You see more and more commercials nowadays with interracial couples than ever before. I don't know if you've noticed it, but I certainly have.
Absolutely.
And I noticed this stuff particularly after the George Floyd situation. That's why I'm saying, like, you're dealing with, there's a pre and post George Floyd world, is how I see it. Post George Floyd, Captain Marvel. I got Captain Marvel on my brain because of your example. But in the post George Floyd society that we now live in, corporate America decided that it was going to, despite how it might still actually operate, optically present itself in such a way as to suggest that it's on the right side of history. And when you decide that you want to be on the right side of history, you are also deciding that you have to be anti-racism. Well, what's one of the easiest ways that corporate America can overtly show that we are anti-racism? Put interracial couples in relationships. You know, have the black man be with the white woman or the Latino woman. Have the white woman or have the, you know, the white guy be with the black woman. Have the you know, the what's the word when it's like we don't really know what the gender is, when we don't know what their race is. What is it called?
I call them
Yeah, but we're like racially ambiguous. Have like have the racially ambiguous guy be portrayed having a family with the black woman. And like, if I'm going to be perfectly honest, I'm not offended by that. I feel as though, as a person who himself has dated outside of his race, full disclosure, I cannot call stuff out like that. I feel as though that would be hypocritical. But that doesn't mean that I can't see that this is something that is being done intentional, and that isn't to confuse the way that these various machines still in fact operate, even though they are trying to suggest something overtly. So we're dealing with this new world in which we are trying to socially deconstruct everything. Gender bending is a part of that, and that's been going on for years. My question is, explain to me why it's inherently funny that men are doing the gender bending.
It's not.
If it's all the same, why aren't women doing the gender bending? And that's interpreted as funny too. I can't think of nearly as many examples, but we think it's funny when it's gender bending on the man side, because you want to tear down the patriarchy, because you think men are just inherently flawed and problematic, and so we have to portray them in an effeminate way. It's ridiculous. Yes. And I agree with you. And I know that's the logic, but I'm saying that logic is stupid. And the ironic thing about that is, most reasonable, level-headed women, as you alluded to, don't like it. They never date men like that. They'd never marry men like that. They don't want the father of their children being emasculated. They don't want the father of their children being effeminate. But we nevertheless find these types of entertainment funny. And I am merely asking the question, why? If this was any other person other than Marlon Wayans, Kevin Hart, for example, I've called Kevin Hart a walking billboard. He is a walking aperture of corporatocracy. He's in DraftKings, Netflix. He's doing all of these movies, you know, iHeartRadio. Kevin Hart is all over the damn place. The guy's a walking billboard. He's like the Hollywood version of a NASCAR driver. He's just got logo patches all over himself. The dude is everywhere. But Kevin Hart's never been in any kind of entertainment where he's being overtly effeminate. So if Kevin Hart was saying this kind of stuff on a radio show, I'd be more inclined to side with him on some of his talking points. But because it was Marlon and you've been doing stuff like White Chicks, I find it hard to kind of go with you on that level, bro. You know, it just is what it is. Because some of the stuff that Marlon was saying, to me, I somewhat agree with, particularly when he was talking about how it is that we view Black people who are successful in Hollywood, and how we by default tend to lean towards the notion that they have sold out somehow. If it's anyone else, I'd be like, let's talk about that, because I do think sometimes we take that narrative a bit too far sometimes. But because it was you, and you've done White Chicks, and you've done various other forms of movies where it's kind of questionable, kind of iffy, I sit back and I say we need another representative. We need another representative, because otherwise, I think some of that stuff is true.
Yeah, it looks like
because like I think sometimes we do take that stuff too far. Honestly, I do. Like, not every black person who is successful in Hollywood or in any other industry had to lick boot. Sometimes you just get it off the muscle and you stick to your principles. It may take a little longer, right? So maybe you don't hit your stride until you're in your 50s, but you did it your way. You didn't quote unquote sell out, and you were able to get to the pinnacle of your career. Just because you're successful in these industries doesn't mean that you sold your soul to Lucifer or that you sacrifice your unborn child. I think we sometimes take that stuff too far, because for a lot of us in our community, we have a difficult time grasping the concept of generational wealth and truly being free and liberated from various corporate shackles. We have a hard time understanding that such a thing is possible. So we reconcile what we see by suggesting that some selling out took place. But I just don't like Marlon saying it, because you were in White Chicks. And not only were you wearing dresses, but you were wearing dresses in whiteface. So it was like a double take on the emasculating aspect of your form of art or entertainment. And so we'll just have to let bygones be bygones and agree to disagree on that front. The last thing that I'll say is on The Devil Is a Lie, off of Rick Ross had an album, Mastermind. I think it was in 2014. And Jay-Z was on a song with Rick Ross called The Devil Is a Lie. And one of the lines in that song that Jay-Z said was, devil want these niggas to hate their own kind. It has to be the Illuminati if a nigga shine. Or I can't be a nigga if a nigga's rich. Or it gotta be the devil. That's some nigga shit. I agree with that. I do. In spirit, I agree with those comments. I think sometimes we take this stuff too far when we get into this whole sacrificing, selling out, secret society stuff. But at the end of the day, you don't leave much of a leg for yourself to stand on when you have contributed to some of these low-hanging fruits in this entertainment industry. Just, if you want to wear the dress, man, wear the dress. Cop to the emasculation effect, keep it moving and move on. But I don't think that necessarily means that you have to disregard Katt Williams' views, because I don't think he's wrong with what he's saying either.
Yeah, and this is my last thing. And it's not to say that he, really, because to speak on the sacrificing, your child or whatever. Well, I had to
that's just
the
thing that a lot of I've heard that a lot.
No, I've heard, or it's just a loved one or whatever. I've heard that too. Like, I don't really get into that too, but teach their own. But Marlon, I had to look it up to make sure. But his son or daughter transitioned.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
And so again, he's the wrong representative, because you're checking all the boxes.
Yeah.
So you're right. Like, hey, where it's like, bro, you literally check every box he mentioned.
It would be like if Dwayne Wade came out and was like, I'm all for traditional families.
Yeah.
It's like, bro, come on, man. You painting your fingernails, and you got your alternative way of raising your family. No one wants to hear that from you, bro.
You got to play the game, dog. Hey, these people playing the game, man, and they're not afraid to play it.
Who's falling for this stuff?
Hey, man, look out, y'all. Y'all be safe out there.
Bro, Dwayne Wade, man, this man painting his finger. He got black fingernails, red fingernails, fingernail polish, and
I mean, it's not for I told you, man, this stuff ain't for you, man. It's for them Gen Zers and below.
Yeah.
Y'all be safe.
I hear your point, man. I hear your point. It's hard because of what you've done. It is what it is. I just kind of think that I hear some of his points, but for the most part, it's like just somebody explain to me why it's funny. I just want to hear that. Give me an explanation for why men being women is inherently funny. If someone can make that make sense to me, I'll relent. But until then, I'm digging myself in this hole on this one. Sorry.
Yeah, keyword there, inherently.
Exactly. Yeah.
Jeez.